As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
One of the worst performances of my career, and they never doubted it for a second.
We all go a little mad sometimes.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Son of a bitch. He stole my life.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Welcome back to the Shot by Shot podcast, where we're finally talking Edgar Wright, where I think he's possibly one of my favourite directors. I think he's definitely one of the best British working directors. I can't remember a time when Edgar Wright movies weren't some of my favourites, and I feel like it's maybe partly playing into why he isn't talked about all the time as one of the best working, because people have just become used to his greatness and the great movies that we've grown up with. There's some of his movies that nobody or everybody has seen. They're some of the most quotable movies and best comedies ever made. I love them so much. Is Edgar Wright one of your favourite directors?
Maybe not favorite, but like consistently wise, is one of the best. I think. Like we're going to talk about it. Funnily enough, we've got the exact same list. When we were coming up with a list, we were like, let's do a collaborative ranking, and then it turns out we think identically to it. But yeah, British directors is definitely one of the best. I think the Cornetto trilogy is probably one of our best exports in general. For comedy, there's not many other films other than like I can think of like Four Lions that are so quintessentially British that I can see like an American audience having trouble with it, especially Hot Fuzz and World's End, because of like the plot. And then, but he's also like a really multi-talented guy. He does all these big Hollywood productions like Scott Pilgrim and Baby Driver, and they resonate with everyone as well. He really seems to be a director who puts fun at the forefront of everything he does. He just makes films for film lovers, I'd say. Extremely accessible, but with enough filmmaking talent to deeply analyze everything he does.
Yeah, he's really fun, but he's also like really technically like great as well. I think I was thinking about this. I feel like he was one of the first filmmakers that I really like was starting to think about, like the person that starts behind the camera. But I think one of those elements is the fact that he's so good with music. I think he genuinely might be one of the greatest like people with needle drops like ever. I feel like there's like Scorsese, Tarantino, and P.T. I'd put like maybe top three. He's maybe top five. Honestly, like his use of music is so good.
Yeah, I think Shaun of the Dead is like one of those ones where like for people just getting into films properly, you have like I guess Fight Club, Jaws, Pulp Fiction that you analyze early on. I think Shaun of the Dead is one of them because like I said, it's so accessible, but the parodying he does of other genres, that's one of the best zombie films ever, and it's like a parody film. And not to as much success, but like Last Night in Soho is a giallo film. Obviously, it's heavily influenced by that. So that's another aspect of him that you can sort of see in directors like Tarantino, where there's clearly a lot of film intellect, like an intellectual background about film that really seeps into his films, and that's probably why he's mastered soundtracks so much and was then confident enough to build an entire film around a soundtrack because he's just got such a deep understanding of like tone and other influences on himself.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons I love him. Like we both love Tarantino and Edgar Wright, and they both work in genre a lot. Like
Yeah.
he doesn't really get that complaint that he's like stealing other people's ideas, even though like every film is clearly like riffing off different genres. Like he's got the science fiction movie, the zombie movie, like you said, the Giallo, the heist movies, his Baby Driver, Hot Fuzz is like he's buddy cop, like slasher kind of. And then he's got a comic book movie in Scott Pilgrim, which I think is also one of the best. There's like so many genres in here that he's kind of like made some of my favorites in. It's crazy when you actually like look at his filmography. And yeah, I feel like he is maybe a bit underappreciated considering how many great films he has made.
He is the closest living comparison to Tarantino, I think. Just two
Yeah,
genre
he's like
directors,
the
and
British Tarantino.
yeah, and also in Hot Fuzz, I'm pretty sure there's a commentary with both of them. I think I've listened to that on YouTube before, and it's Tarantino like glazing Edgar Wright and Edgar Wright glazing Tarantino. So That
Yeah.
relationship definitely exists.
Yeah, he also made one of the short films on his grindhouse, like double feature, um, which is very interesting. If you haven't checked that out, that's a really good. The to combine the two movies that he made for that is with the adverts in between it is really fun.
Oh, did he
Um,
direct a fake trailer?
yeah, yeah, like the one Eli Roth done, like one of those. I can't remember what it's about in it, but I think it's good. But let's get into our ranking. We have agreed on a collaborative ranking beforehand because, as you said, it was the exact same. So we're just gonna go from 6 to 1. We're not gonna do his original low budget, which is technically his first feature, which was it's interesting the inspiration for it. I think he was 20 maybe when he made this, but it was basically just him seeing that Sam Raimi done the Evil Dead at a young age that inspired him. Like it was
All
basically the
right.
first thing that showed him that someone could basically just do it that wasn't like born in Hollywood pretty much. So that's pretty much what his first feature is his Evil Dead. But neither of us have seen it. So we're just gonna do his like big budget Hollywood features. So number 6 that we agreed on was The World's End, which I love all these movies, so this is not like a derogatory placement. And it's going to sound contradictory because we are putting it in last place, but I do think this is fairly underrated. Maybe because it's the Cornetto trilogy is what he's known for, and this kind of ends that trilogy. So you've got those expectations going into it of being the big finale of a trilogy, even though it wasn't supposed to be a trilogy. It was kind of a joke that he put the Cornettos in the first two one, and then through like interviews and stuff, he kind of connected the two movies, and then finished it off with this one. So they're not really a trilogy. It's very like, well, it is a trilogy, but it's not super connected, and this didn't have like the gravity of ending that. It was just it's like his own film, pretty much. It's not trying to finish off any storylines or anything. And it's pretty small scale until it doesn't. It becomes pretty big stakes at one point, but it is basically just a character focused comedy on a guy that's struggling with alcoholism. It's a very personal movie, maybe his most personal movie, in terms of just the work that Simon Pegg's done, because he's a co-writer in this, and he's obviously dealt with alcoholism in the past. And it's also arguably his most British movie, other than Hot Fuzz, because it's working in those like two small British towns. I think that's maybe why I feel like some Americans struggle to connect to the comedy, especially in this one, and Hot Fuzz, just because they don't. It's like a cultural divide. They don't really understand a lot of the comedy.
Yeah, the
But
concept of a pub crawl is
yeah,
so uniquely British that it's an immediate like off-putting thing for an American. And a pub in general, Americans have bars, they're not have pubs. That they are quite different. And I think this is the most. This is the one where you can tell it's kind of self-referential that it's in a trilogy. They give like Martin Freeman a bigger role. He's in like minor roles in Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead, and then they also switch the character archetypes, which I think is a good thing. Nick Frost is the straight man, and from memory, he's really good as a straight man. And I'm not surprised Simon Pegg can play like the reckless, like drunk guy.
mhm.
'Cause he definitely has the comedy acting chops for
So
that.
it's his best role, I think, like his whole career.
Really,
I
wow.
think so. Yeah.
It's probably his most, yeah, because Shaun of the Dead is playing like a reserved kind of like loser, and then Hot
Hmm.
Fuzz is kind of similar. It's like a reserved loser cop, whereas this one they give him more like energy, and is a little unhinged in this. Um, my issues with this, and why I'd have it last, I don't know about you, is it does feel quite similar to Shaun of the Dead, like conceptually, like zombies and then an apocalypse film. But this is like more sci-fi
Hmm.
heavy. You've got the fake. What do they call them in this film? They have a name, don't they?
I can't remember if they call them androids or like I can't remember the
I thought
specific
they had
name
a
that they
nickname, but
use.
I can't. Yeah, but they're basically
Yeah.
androids. And it does feel. I think overall the comedy's weaker than Shaun of the Dead, but Shaun of the Dead's probably one of, well, and Hot Fuzz, they're like the funniest films ever to me. Whereas this is funny, but when you finish in a trilogy that you've like sort of created for yourself, there's gonna be a lot of pressure on you. But I'm pretty sure This is another one he had in the works, like immediately after Hot Fuzz's release.
Mhm.
He did an unproduced script in the 90s called Crawl, um, which was about doing a 12 pub crawl like film, but it wasn't going to have any sci-fi elements. It was just going to be a comedy about some guys going on a pub crawl, which would have been like even less accessible. That would have been like the In-Betweeners, like an American watching the In-Betweeners. They're just not going to get it. And I think I read that he sort of halfway through the script decided to add all the alien elements to try and like keep it consistent with the rest of the trilogy, which I think was a good idea, even though it does stray a little bit into Shaun of the Dead territory for me with the like apocalyptic stuff.
Yeah, I never loved the concept as much as the first two. Like you're saying, like the alien science fiction stuff just doesn't interest me quite as much as a zombie movie or that buddy cop like slasher. Um, I guess it's kind of like riffing on Invasion of the Body Snatchers, so there's some like horror elements that have been thrown in there, but I don't think it's quite interesting as like the other concepts.
No, it's definitely like an Invasion of the Body Snatchers riff. It's another genre like riff, like we
Yeah.
talked about. It just, I don't think it carries the. See, I'm having such issues remembering it, and I have seen other of his films only one time. I've only seen Last Night in Soho once, and I've seen Hot Fuzz so long ago it was almost basically once. I
Mm.
remember much more about that. This one just doesn't stick in my mind as much. Um, but for this to be like your worst film is a very good sign because I feel like I could just throw it on now and really enjoy it, and it might even go up my rating. It was between this and Baby Driver last night that I was going to watch, but I saw that I'd given Baby Driver such a high rating that I
Mhm.
thought I've seen like 1,000 films since then. It might go down. So I don't regret that choice, but The World's End is probably his least accessible film as well with Hot Fuzz, and it just doesn't have the reputation that Hot Fuzz does. Um, I think even in the UK, there's not many
Yeah,
people I
it's
know
true.
that's favorite film is The World's End out of like that trilogy.
Yeah, it's really the contrarian opinion to say this is your
Yeah,
favorite. It's always Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead. Um, but I do think I do really like the Simon Pegg like life elements thrown in here. Like it's probably like the Gary King character is probably his best character possibly in his filmography. I think I really like the like ideas about like aging or like nostalgia about your youth. Like there's the ideas of like I think he was very influenced by like going back to his hometown and there was like Starbucks and like lots of like very big like commercial like restaurants and stuff like kind of took taken over this small town and that was a big part of what influenced this movie. The alcoholism obviously is a very prominent part of it where the whole thing's like a pub crawl. And I think it's probably like maybe the hardest kind of tones that he's tried to mix because he's trying to do this comedy, but it's also a very serious guy that's like hit rock bottom and struggling with alcoholism. Maybe doesn't work perfectly all the time, and it does kind of fall off a bit when the actual aliens come in. But I think even after that, some of the moments in that are some of the best. I think the fight in the pub is one of my favorites because that kind of shows off like how good of an action director he is because he doesn't really do that outside of this and Scott Pilgrim. And I think because he's working with Bill Pope in this, I think it's the action's really good. I think he's the greatest action DP of all time. So him and Wright working together is like pretty perfect for action for me.
I'm pretty sure they were choreographing that concurrently with Scott Pilgrim, like conceptually. I don't know if he had the
Mm,
same people involved, but you can definitely tell he made Scott Pilgrim like in between Hot Fuzz and this,
yeah.
because like you said, the the effect, like I remember the practical effects being really good with the androids. I think it was all practical, and then yeah, the fight choreography, the stuntmen is like definitely the closest thing he gets to Scott Pilgrim again, which is a big strength to the film. And like you were saying about Simon Pegg's character, there's like an element of tragedy to each of his characters in the film. I think this is the most like explosive version of that. Like he's an alcoholic down on his luck. Um, And then Shaun of the Dead's like actually got some pretty good tearjerker moments as well.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not like pure comedies. These films, which really helps. The Shaun of the Dead really leans into the horror. This leans into like action aspects, and also obviously Hot Fuzz has the like slasher elements as well. So it's just working within his own genre and like really pulling from other films, like we said.
Yeah, I think it's still a great film, but I love all of Edgar Wright's movies, so it's something has to go at the bottom. I still think this is a 4 star after rewatching it. Um, really good stuff.
Yes. Next, well, obviously we agreed on Last Night in Soho, which is his like Giallo film. I'm not as
Hmm.
familiar with all that as you. I was aware of it when I was watching it, and I also was aware that this is probably considered his worst film among general audiences. Um, Whenever you speak about it, it's like to me, it's like you're talking about your favorite film ever. For some reason, because I had no idea you loved it as much as you do. I like it. I think I have it 3.5, and I
Uh-huh.
do slightly prefer it to World's End. But I've always wanted to hear you go on a passionate rant about this. I feel like it's your exact sort of like horror ballpark, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's one's harder to talk about because this is like the only Edgar Wright movie that I haven't like rewatched endlessly. I've only seen it the one time. I don't understand the hate for it. I mean, I do because I feel like every modern giallo adaptation is kind of polarizing because I don't know if people. It's very camp. It's a very campy like
Well, yeah,
subgenre.
Maxine wasn't Maxine trying to do that.
Yeah, Maxine's very giallo. Malignant is like one of the most polarizing horror movies of the decade. That's also a
Oh,
giallo.
yeah, yeah. I'm on the side of not enjoying that one. But this I like. And Maxine, I don't think Maxine or that nails it, but I think this. I don't understand. What is the most common criticism of this? The is it the like split like personality thing, or is it
I
the way it
think
ends?
it's
I think people don't like the ending either.
yeah. I think the ending is polarizing because that's when it really goes like giallo and like the big twist happens. But I think I don't fully know the problems with it, but I think it's to do with like Edgar Wright, like very like without nuance, like putting this like ghetto in. She's because she's starting university, isn't it, at the
Yeah,
start of
yeah.
the movie,
Is it fashion
and she's
school?
kind of like yeah,
Yeah,
fashion school in London, and there's like a bunch of like men like being really like weird to her, and
and there's bullies, isn't there? Like just
it's like yeah,
generic
bullies,
female
and it's
bullies.
like the whole predatory like industry like side of it. When she goes back to the 60s, I don't think people like how the like men and the women are like handled in it. I think that's
Yeah,
the problems that people have.
they use sexual like violence at the
Yes.
end as like a horror trope. I mean, I don't mind any of that, but I can see why um a lot of people think strongly of that she's been like swarmed by men and it's being used as like a horror aspect at the end because um Anya Taylor-Joy's character is obviously just being exploited the entire film. And Matt Smith, I think, is quite a
Hmm.
polarizing actor as well within like Hollywood. I think in the UK is highly thought of, but it's been in some stinkers, and I think his presence in films sort of rubs people the wrong way.
He's not got a good movie history, but he's in Game of Thrones and Doctor Who. He's got a good TV history.
Well, he's very good in Caught Stealing. He's probably the best person in that, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah, he was very good in that.
So we
But I think
might have
he's even that he's probably just seen as the annoying British guy. I don't
yeah.
think that helped his reputation in the US.
Is he British in Morbius? I've never seen that film.
It is set in London, so I think he might be.
He's the annoyingly British guy. I mean, his
Maybe.
character doesn't have much to say in this from memory. He's just like the controlling aspect of Annie Taylor Joy's character's life.
Yeah.
Thomasin McKenzie's a really good actress, I think, and I think her performance. Some people don't like performance in this, but I think that's the voice being harsh. I think some people. I've spoke to people who've seen this and they thought she was putting a voice on. I'm like, no, she just sounds like Peppa Pig. Um, but
um,
yeah, This is like World's End for me, where I've only seen it once. I think these are the two films that I've only seen once that are at the bottom. Um, and it's very close with World's End, but I think this has some. I think cinematically, this is more interesting. I think it does some really fun stuff with the cameras. Um,
Yeah,
Slightly reminded me of Raimi stuff towards the end, and I think the whole Giallo thing is something that's far more an interesting genre riff than like a generic apocalypse film like World's End is. So I think that's what gives it strength over it. Um, I also I like how constricted it feels within Soho. I think that's a good like location to have your horror film set, and it is sort of similar to like the scummy Giallo settings that you see in
yeah.
like
It's a good
magazines.
balance between his like British like side and like the very Hollywood side. You don't. It's not got like the British comedy in it, but you're still like set in London.
Yeah, this feels like the transitional sort of film between Britain and America. Yeah, I think it's a good one that I need to watch again because I don't remember much of it to be honest. But I think it's massively overhated. But I don't know if the biggest issue is that like sexual predatory aspect that people don't like about it, which is fair enough, I suppose.
Yeah, but that's also a very like the psychosexual side is a very big element of Jallows, which I haven't rewatched this. I think when I watched this, I'd never even seen a Jallo, so I'm gonna interested to rewatch this with all the knowledge of seeing those movies and going back and seeing it because it's a lot of like Argento like color inspirations that I remember. I think technically this is a really good movie. I love the one scene that I always remember is when it's Matt Smith and Anya Taylor Joy and Mackenzie like dancing and they're actually like switching out for each other. Like they're just like jumping out of the way of the camera. Like there's no editing tricks or anything. It's like the Texas switch, I think it's called, isn't it? When
Yeah,
like
I think so.
yeah, when stunt people well usually stunt people switch out, which Edgar Wright does a lot in like Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz when the fence jumping. But this it's actually Thomas Mackenzie and Anya Taylor Joy like switching for the dance. I think there's also one when she first walks into the club and you can see like Anya Taylor Joy in the
Oh,
mirror because she's like imagining the sexy side, but it's actually like them standing doing it together, and it's the the twins from or Harry Potter,
the
the Weasley
Weasleys.
brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, they
like
are.
they're both like on each side because there's not actually a mirror.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool
They
like
do a lot of fun
practical stuff
stuff
in.
with mirrors in this. Crack mirrors, like I said, and reflections and lighting as well. It's really like RGB, like full on
Mhm.
Suspiria Argento lighting. So it's a really hyper specific genre play as compared to like or a generic like western or zombie film. So maybe that's what puts some people off because I knew what a giallo was when I saw this, but I don't think like you had actually ever seen one.
Mhm.
But like the way it looks from like set design and costumes and makeup, um, it nails it. I just think narratively it's weaker compared to like a Argento film, and also it is slightly surface level as well. Like you said, with like Matt Smith's character, is very like
Yeah.
generically evil, and like the bullying aspect is very like high school drama and stuff like that. So it's still a very good film, but it's one of his weaker ones, I think.
It's also not scary, which a lot
No,
of
it's
people have
not.
troubles with
I,
when
I,
they
I
go into
never
a horror
care
movie.
about
And then,
that. Like,
yeah, it's not a big deal for me at
you can
all.
be a
In
horror
fact,
film and
it's
not be scary.
yeah, nothing
I
to do
think
with being a horror movie, but that's a big thing for people. They don't like when horror movies aren't scary.
I know. Well, it's the worst when they say it can't be horror because it's not scary. When like it's completely subjective. It's what is this if it isn't a horror film? It's like a mystery, but it so obviously is a horror. It's like
Yeah.
main genre.
I've seen people say Shaun of the Dead isn't a horror just because it's a comedy.
There's some brutal violence in that. Like
Yeah,
that's definitely a
I mean,
horror.
any zombie movie is horror.
Yeah, yeah. I think the only one, yeah, they all are. I think the Cornetto trilogy are just horror films. Obviously, Shaun of the Dead is blatantly a horror film.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I
I
remember
wouldn't
Hot
put the
Fuzz.
other two in, but like they are majorly influenced.
They're comedy first, I'd say. But as a subgenre, there's like like goofy stuff in Hot Fuzz with the killings, and then World's End is probably the stupidest one. That's probably just pure sci-fi, to be honest. Now that I think about it, but Last Night in Soho's probably is like most horror focused genre riff, I'd say. Maybe even more than Shaun of the Dead.
for sure. But yeah, that's another 4 for me.
That is
Um,
a 3.5 for me. I think that's the end of the
yeah,
3.5. So.
yeah. I'm interested to go back to that because I think it's the only one that I've not seen more than once. Um, but number 4, we have Baby Driver, which is one that I have watched a lot, but it's probably the one that's lowered over time, which is very unique in his filmography in that sense because I think the other ones have either like retained their greatness for me or it got even better as I've watched more movies. When I watched this at like 17 or whatever, I thought this was like the greatest movie I'd ever seen because it was like I'd never seen someone like edit around music the way he does in this movie. It's the way each track either kind of like tells you something about the character or works for like a physical gag or it's just kind of like edited perfectly around the music. Um, or something that's happening visually. Everything that he's doing in the background is so interesting as well. The stuff he's doing with the set or like the colors in the movie, or there's like Easter eggs hidden all over it. I think is like so interesting in terms of his storytelling, and it's really fun. But it just doesn't really hold up for me after I've like seen other movies.
Yeah, well, I watched this like 12 hours ago. Well, 24 hours ago. I watched this last night. Because I was going to pick one to rewatch before we did the recording. And I saw this. The only reason our rankings are the same is because I watched this last night. I originally had this above Hot Fuzz, but it is nowhere near Hot Fuzz on rewatch. It's a 4. It's still good, but having seen like thousands of films, I'm the exact same. I was probably 17, 16 when I watched this. My mind was blown. It's like I was saying, it was like one of my favorite films ever. The
Mm-hmm.
the editing, like I'd never seen anything like it. But now I've seen films like Heat and probably over 100 different heist films that are like varying in quality. I think this is good, but it sort of feels like a studio film he was brought onto rather than he conceived himself, which is funny because this is like the longest gap between him conceiving an idea for a film and making it. I think he thought this in the mid 90s. He had an idea of a heist film revolving around like music before he even made like the Cornetto trilogy. But when I watched this last night, the actual set pieces themselves aren't mind blowing. That they're like very well edited and very well structured, and you've got to keep like a good ear out for each little thing because like there's a scene in a warehouse where they're escaping because they've just shot all these people and they're escaping, and they're playing tequila and stuff like little pauses in the music with like a grenade being flicked open. You'd have to keep like quite a good ear out for it, and it is very good. But um, the structure of it and the characters like um, John Bernthal and like John Hamm's actually really good as a in a role he's not known for, like playing this
Yeah.
tough guy lover. He's normally like a sleazy. He's either a comedic actor or like a sleazy guy, like a sleazy suit. Um, so he was stand out. I forgot how prominent he was in this. Jamie Foxx also doesn't particularly feel like an Edgar Wright kind of character in this. It feels like again a studio heist film that he wouldn't be involved in. He makes it all work, but apart from the introduction to Baby, stuff like in the tunnel where he goes between the two red cars and he's in a red car and then he switches them around, and it's like probably on a helicopter the camera work. It's really good, but it's just a very strong film that didn't blow my mind compared to when I first watched it. But it is still one of the better heist films, I'd say.
Yeah, it doesn't feel completely like him. I guess because it is like the American like Hollywood movie. But even like when they done that in Scott Pilgrim, like you can really feel that it's a Edgar Wright movie. It doesn't have like all these usual trademarks exactly that he uses all the time up to Baby Driver. So yeah, I do agree that it doesn't feel completely like him in a bit like a studio movie. But I think his visual storytelling's like up there as some of his best work in this. Like it, the music is insane. Like it really shows just how good of a like choice he makes for his music. I think directors even come to him when they like can't decide on music because he's just like a like human like jukebox of history of music just in his brain. He has like such a good choice of it. I think up there with Tarantino.
It's so impressive. He had like Ansel Elgort throw music at him he wanted including that like his favorite music, and he makes it work. He didn't even pick like some of the music in this, and he still manages
Mm.
to edit a concise, very well paced like sequence around the music. 'Cause it's not just the car chases. He like goes to get coffee, and his like interactions with people on the street and the way he moves is completely built around the music. It's a film I didn't see this in the cinema. I can't imagine not
Never
watching
did
it with
I.
headphones. I can't imagine not watching it without headphones. Like I think you need headphones to watch this. There's so many like subtle little things like I talked about. Um, it's not like as funny as his dry British humor, but the stuff like the Mike Myers mask is pretty funny where they pick the wrong masks.
Mm-hmm.
And there's good chemistry between everyone. I mean, Kevin Spacey now has been outed. Has so much more like is so much slimier in this role. In
Yeah,
most
he's not
roles, he's like
acting.
no, he's like a slimy guy in most things, and he's so like hateable. Even though his character has like a weird. That's one thing I didn't like in this. His character sort of has like a redemption thing, even though he's been like threatening
Mm-hmm.
the driver the entire film, saying he's gonna kill his family if he leaves him. But in the end, he like shoots all these people to help him escape. That's the one character like writing choice I thought was weird because it had not hinted at that all film. But yeah, it's good. It's like I said, it's better than some of his Cornetto trilogy stuff. It just does feel like a film he was brought on to direct rather than he came up with himself. But I think that's probably the Hollywood influence.
Yeah, because it wasn't because like you said, he had that idea for ages. He did do a music video in like the early 2000s, which was pretty much just like the intro of this movie. It was like a 3 minute music video. So he had that idea cooking for a while. The funny thing is, this is probably the most unfortunate case of like casting in like maybe the history of Hollywood. Of just how unlucky they got with the two leads in this movie.
Yeah, it is. It is actually cursed. Because when it started, I was like, I've not seen Ansel Elgort in a while, and then I remembered it is. It's very very unlucky, and it's a shame because Ansel Elgort's pretty damn good in this. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I really like him in this. And Kevin Spacey's Kevin Spacey. He probably would have retired as one of the like great American actors if he wasn't like a horrible human being.
yeah.
So it's difficult. It doesn't ruin
The
the
only
movie
benefit
because
he
they are
has
great in this.
is that he plays horrible people in most things, so you're just like, oh, I know this
Yeah.
guy's horrible. So it kind of adds to it, but yeah, yeah, I forgot about Ansel Elgort's like southern accent in this that he does. It's pretty cool. And like I said, everyone's good in it. They switch the. I like that they play on switching the heist like crew around. I think that's quite clever. So it's not always the same group. John Bernthald's always. I love John Bernthal. He's always like great in everything.
Mm.
He basically plays Jamie Foxx's character in the beginning. Like he takes massive offense to Baby's character because he's listening to music. Um, and then there's the I don't know the actors' names, but there's the Asian guy and the guy with no nose in the Mike Myers scene, and they all have good chemistry as well. So yeah, it's a good film. He switches it round a lot with the cast, and Jamie Foxx it always has good screen presence, even though he's one character that sort of stood out to me as like not a typical Edgar Wright character,
Mm.
more like a generic heist character.
He's a good actor. You forget he's won an Oscar just because he's been in slop for like the last
I
10 years
know. I
or
think that's
whatever.
why he stands out. He's mean so much rubbish, but he's actually really good in Baby Driver.
Yeah. And then Lily James is like maybe the best anyone has ever looked in a movie
Oh
in
my
this.
god, I was thinking that. Yeah, she's insane looking in this.
um, but yeah, something that isn't it's one that's not as great as I initially thought it was, but it's still got like a lot of Edgar Wright greatness. This is also a 4-star for me.
Yes,
Um,
it was a 4.5. Now it's a 4-star.
yeah, I think I had it at 5, like when I first got
I
letterboxed.
think I did. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is such a old. This was pre-diary, and my diary started in 2021, so it was such a long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Rewatch. I was a bit worried it was going to drop to like 3.5, to be honest, but no, it holds up. It's very good, and I think it deserves the reputation it's got because this might be considered his best film amongst very very casual audiences. Um, like
Yeah,
will
it is the movie that they've used in the advertisement for Running Man, like the
yeah, the Baby
director of Baby
Driver,
Driver, I think. So yeah,
because
and I think it's his.
Scott Pilgrim is not accessible. I don't think it's accessible, even though it's like a comic adaptation. It's really like full on, and I don't think a lot of people
Mm,
would appreciate that. And then anyone outside the UK is not going to hold Shaun of the Dead in this high regard. So it makes
yeah.
sense that it's like, was it a streaming film or did it come out in the cinemas?
No, it came out in cinemas.
It
Baby
came out,
Driver,
yeah, it did. It in my head, it's a
yeah.
streaming
Yeah.
film. Probably 'cause I didn't see it in cinema, but it
It
it's like the Hollywood one, the big Hollywood
well,
one. You
it made 227 million, and it had a budget of 34 million.
Damn,
So it's
that's actually not
by
not the
far,
budget I expected.
yeah, no, and it's got a crazy cast, so it probably went into the most of that.
There's that Edgar
So
Wright
yeah,
aura of getting him on cheap.
yeah. So that's definitely his most successful movie. Running Man Night, past that. Don't
Glenn,
know, not 200. There's no way it's making
still,
200, but
still trying to establish if Glenn Powell has that pull yet. Not sure.
true.
I think I think he's approaching it. Yeah, I don't think it touches Baby Driver's box office, and I don't think it'll be as in high regard as Baby Driver. That seems to be amongst casual fans like his gold standard film.
Yeah. But yeah, it's our number 4. What's our
Number
number 3?
4. Our number 3, I believe, is Hot Fuzz, unless anything's changed last minute. Yeah,
Yes.
I agree that this is. I think this is almost on par with Shaun of the Dead, but Shaun of the Dead's emotional moments for me slightly give it the advantage. I think the first time I watched Shaun of the Dead, I had to lock in because it gets pretty sad. Hot Fuzz is another one where I have seen it, but it was. I think I've seen it twice, but even my rewatch was long ago. It's hard to talk about recounting it because it's like this feels like the one that's a Joker second of the three, and the highest hit rate. It's very very funny, but it's also I think just as inaccessible as World's End because it takes place in like this tiny little village with really like awkward dry British humor and British like mannerisms amongst the cast. It's one
Hmm.
of the most British like casts ever. And I always complain about when films feel too British. It makes me feel sick. But this this nails it, mixing it with like the American like slasher sort of play. And I think Nick Frost and Simon Pegg's relationship in this is my favorite. The buddy cop stuff is so good, and to take it outside somewhere like Los Angeles and place it in a tiny little village works really well comedically.
Yeah, it never feels too British. Like there's some people in here that are like they just look like normal people, like lifted off the street, but they never look out of place. Really, it does have like the authentic feel to it, even though like this is like one of his craziest stacked casts, where it just has like every great British actor from this century in it, or at least comedic actors. I don't think is there anybody that like our age that hasn't seen Hot Fuzz? Like, does that exist? I feel like
It,
everybody grew up
no,
with this
it's a
movie.
all three are a big like cultural people our age. I would say I remember being at school and people quoting. Uh, I think people loved World's End to quote at my school, but I know everyone like 13-year-olds had seen the Cornetto trilogy. It's like a
Hmm.
big part of like young British culture. And yeah, the cast is stacked. I'm just looking at it now. It's like Olivia Colman back in 2007 as well. She wasn't like a superstar. This is basically
Yeah.
the British like A team of the casting.
Yeah. Get James Bond just like riffing in the supermarket.
Yeah, there's a really funny bit in that farm when they're talking to that guy with that really thick accent. That bit always stands out to me. Um, and I like that it starts in London and it like takes you out of there as well.
Hmm.
Because like I said, the buddy cop thing is usually based in somewhere where the set does feel like a living place, like the city, but they feel too small in that location. But this kind of subverts that, and these really like big characters in this tiny place, but they're still out of the depth because everyone. It's like a big conspiracy, um, and they even like make fun of it in the film. I'm pretty sure Nick Frost holds up like Bad Boys, Bad Boys DVD
Yeah.
and Point
And
Break.
Point Break.
Yeah, so yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, it probably is his most quotable movie, um, in terms of comedy. And there's like so many memes that came from it, like that Timothy Dalton, like when he's standing in front of the picture with
Oh
the
yeah,
frame
yeah,
of
yeah.
him doing the same pose behind him. Uh, Maybe the most cultural impact from any of his movies. But yeah, I think it's kind of got the same kind of things with World's End, where it's like a small town. But I do think this works better as a genre mashup, because you're kind of getting those buddy cop movies that you're saying, like the Bad Boys and the Point Break, which I've never actually rewatched this since I watched Point Break. I'm interested to go
Me
back.
neither. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It more felt like when I watched Point Break, it felt like it was referencing this because that was what I knew, like the gunshot, like in the air thing from, rather than Point Break. So I'm interested to go back and catch all the references, which I think this is one of his most rewatchable ones because there is so much stuff to catch like on rewatch.
Yeah, I'm dying to rewatch it. I feel like all the quotes would come back to me if I watch this again. The only reason I didn't rewatch this more recently is I'm so confident in my opinion that this is like one of his best, and in comparison to Shaun of the Dead, like is almost level. And I've seen Shaun of the Dead way more.
Hmm.
It's just how quotable it is. I think it's his funniest film. Um, I think it's funnier than Shaun
Possibly,
of
yeah.
the Dead, but like I said, I prefer as a complete film. I slightly prefer Shaun of the Dead because of the like horror and emotional stuff. But yeah, the small village works because there's a whole conspiracy aspect, and then but combining that with a buddy cop is a really interesting like genre play. Whereas the apocalypse stuff does feel a little bit samey in World's End, but
Hmm.
yeah, this is one of the best buddy cop, maybe the best buddy cop film. I need to watch Point Break again because they're clearly being played off one another with this.
Yeah, it also has some like really solid horror elements. Like I was, this and Shaun of the Dead like genuinely kind of scared me when I was a kid watching this because the slasher stuff is like it is well done. There's a lot of like, I mean, it's basically a dark comedy. There's a lot of like really gruesome and gory kills in this. Like the church one when the
Oh,
spire
that's
like falls
cool.
off
Yeah,
and
yeah,
kills the investigator. That's like, I think that's pretty much taken from the Omen movie. Um,
yeah. It is. Yeah,
yeah, so there's a lot of horror influences in there. Doesn't quite delve into like fully being a horror movie like Shaun of the Dead for me, but there's a lot of really good elements in there. It also has like some solid commentary on like the small English towns again, like World's End, with like the veil of the cult basically working on to keep the like reputation of their small town up. Like
yeah.
because it's initially when he like comes from London and he like thinks like there's like no crime, but it's really like a funny satire on like the conservatism of like these people in these towns and the kind of like racism that lies underneath of it in like small towns in England, which is an interesting
Okay.
side to this that
Yeah,
comes out.
that's another thing that's so British about it because if only really people in the UK will understand, like if you go to these small villages, you do feel like an outsider. Um, Even driving through them feels a bit weird. I've been to places where you get like looked at for like walking just into a supermarket, like a chain supermarket. So it is a funny play on all that, how like insular these places are and against outsiders, and then combining it with like the more action tropey, turning this place into a big action set, and like also a typical horror film, turning it into like a place where slasher murder happens. Because like you said, it's pretty violent. There's like that scene in the dark where they find all the bodies, and also the like decapitations and stuff like that. I think the most famous one
Hmm.
is the church spikes. It's a bit of a jump scare,
For
but
sure,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's just another great genre film from him. Like I keep saying, like nearly every film just is.
Yeah, the kills are so funny as well. It's so convoluted, like the actual like idea or the plan, like why they actually killed people. I think that's why it's so rewatchable because I almost kind of forget the reasoning for why they even do everything. It's stupid stuff like the guy in the newspaper said something bad about their pub or
Oh yeah,
something,
yeah.
or a woman was going to leave the town and they didn't want them to go to a different town and like bring her business and make theirs better. It's really like stupid reasons, but
British
it
people love
really works
gossip.
well.
That's the thing. Like if you go on a Facebook
Yeah,
forum in like a even in like a suburb of the city you're in, it's just gossip and it's like playing on that. It's like mixing insular British culture with like the slasher stereotypes. It's really like effective commentary.
yeah. And this one's actually, if you're watching this at 7 years old, it's scary. Um,
Yeah, it's scary, but very quotable. So like I think in school, like I said, in schools, this is one of the most quoted ones. People way too young to be watching it had already seen it.
yeah. Is this a 4 star for you?
No, it's 4.5.
4.5.
It
High
needs a
four for me.
rewatch test, but it's like a low 4.5 for me.
Nice. That is our number three. Number two, we do have the final entry in the Cornetto trilogy, which is Shaun of the Dead, which I think this is kind of my cemented number one of the trilogy for me, just because it's definitely the first one I watched. Is there really isn't a time that I can remember where Shaun of the Dead wasn't one of my favorite movies, because this is like one of those ones that would play on like STV or ITV or like ITV2 like all the
Yeah,
time, and and it would be late at night, and I would like have it on, but because it was zombies, it would still scare me. Like when I was like 7 or 8, whenever I watched it, there was this and like Walking Dead, which they're slow zombies. They're not necessarily like the biggest threats, but there is something so scary about them, especially when you watch them at a young age. And I hadn't even seen the Romero zombie movies at that time, so that was really the first introduction of them, as well as really stuff like 20 Days Later and Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead remake was coming out around the same time. So the slow zombies, even though it had been done to death in the genre at that time, it felt unique when you're like really young and it's all you've seen compared to the running zombies that are in like every other movie at the time. So this still felt unique, even though it was riffing on like Romero's movies, which I watched 5 years ago or whatever, and really like put this in a new light because I was able to see like the kind of stuff he's parodying. So it felt more unique at the time, but I think it's still also like a really good kind of like modern adaptation of kind of what Romero's ideas were for his movies, for Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead. Also Land of the Dead that he done after this came out. When they have you seen you've seen
I
his Land
have.
of the Dead,
Yeah,
haven't you?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright are in a cameo of it when they're like in a cage as zombies because
Because
Romero loved
Romero,
this movie
yeah.
so much. Yeah.
Imagine
And I
not
think
being an
it's
established director yet, like properly, and riffing on someone as like well thought of as Romero, and then Romero seeing it and
mm,
loving it so much that it puts them in a film. I feel like this could be credited for like a zombie renaissance. I think early 2000s. I don't know when Walking Dead came out, but like I think it was
like
after.
2010, I think.
Yeah, I
Or
feel like
2011 maybe.
this had quite a major, maybe the only one outside the UK to have a cultural impact. I think Americans really like this as well because of like zombies are such an accessible concept, and this works. This probably works even if you don't find it that funny, and still be a strong
Hmm.
film compared to the other two, which are so like entrenched in British culture that you'd struggle. Um, it's just a really good zombie film, even in like isolation, ignoring the comedy stuff. Like I know it gets talked about to death, but the two oneers at the beginning where like society is functioning, and then he goes back to the shop and
Yeah, it's
everything's
stuff
falling
like that that
apart.
blew my mind. Like watching it when I was younger, like I'd never seen like technical like oneers done that well before. It was like that first introduction of it.
And I feel like, unlike Baby Driver, if I watched that, I've seen that like 100 times. Like you said, they love playing this on TV. I've probably seen bits of this hundreds of times just on TV, but it's such a it's such an interesting way to show, like, instead of having like um a big scene where society is starting to collapse, just doing something like that where it's all happening in the background and it's like comedic because the character's oblivious to it. It's such a cool way to do it, and then I quite like that it ends like the characters go through all this pain and like escalating horror, and the army just come in and like sweep it all up within hours.
Mhm.
Because in the Romero films, until Land of the Dead, where it all kind of like falls apart, there's always a sense that humanity in the background are like fighting back against these zombies because of how like slow they are. I know in Dawn, there's like hunting parties that go around like killing
Mhm.
zombies and like having fun basically. So I quite like how this doesn't end with the collapse of society. I think it's another play on the Romero films. But the emotional moments with like Sean's mum and Nick Frost obviously gets bitten, and at the end is like a still his friend but a zombie.
Playing the PlayStation 2
Like
as a zombie.
PlayStation 2, yeah. No, has some really good emotional moments, and I think the character dynamics, like within that small group of survivors, is probably the funniest out of the Cornetto trilogy.
Yeah, I think it works so well in conversation with Romero's movies, and it's clear why he loved it. Like, obviously, like Dawn of the Dead, he kind of satirized like the consumerism of the zombies still like going about shopping in the mall. Land of the Dead, he kind of still had like the capitalist structures of like the rich living in the tower and the poor living down, even in this like closed off like zombie area. Um, and I mean, it's such a smart twist on that. Like that 1 hour we're talking about, like kind of basically just shows that visually, like where Sean's basically living as a zombie, where he's
Yeah,
basically not awake or like aware of what he's doing, and his like daily routine where he goes to the shop, gets a cornetto and a coke or whatever it is, and then walks home and he's not even paying attention to anything. He's basically a zombie. So he's kind of like doing what Romero done with like people living as zombies, and he's 9 to 5. I think that's a really smart like twist on it. And it's funny that it takes like a zombie apocalypse for him to sort out his life and the relationships in his life.
yeah. It's an interesting comparison to World's End because this is all about like mundanity, I suppose, of the adult
Hmm.
routine. Like he's just drifting along before this apocalypse happens. There's no like inspiration or motivation in his life. And then Will's End's sort of the opposite. It's about him like needing to grow up and like also get a hold of his life, but because he's being so childlike and careless. Um, and then Hot Fuzz is somewhere in the middle, but that's why when I'm comparing Will's End, I'm kind of harsher on it because I think Shaun of the Dead does things like similarly, like genre conventions that are just much stronger. But yeah, this is possibly the best, like, I don't know if you'd call it a parody film, but probably the best like um adaptation of another
Homage.
yeah, homage, that's the word. Homage to someone else's film. Like if you're getting Romero to love it so much, he wants to put your actors in the film. Because it stands alone without the homage aspects as well. It's such a good, it's probably my top three zombie films. It's so good.
Yeah, it's my second, I think.
Yeah,
Might be my first. I can't remember. I don't know if I'm missing out on a movie. Dawn of the Dead might be above it, but
that's fair.
I'm not
That's
sure.
fair.
Um, yeah, I think I think it definitely works as like just a horror movie in its own. Like the gore is amazing. The stuff that really freaked me out as a kid is I don't remember his name, but it's the guy friend that like
I know you mean.
fancies his girlfriend, and he gets
Yeah,
pulled out the window, and his guts like get pulled out from him. That freaked me out so much. And he's like, the limbs get torn apart. The needle drop, the "Don't Stop Me Now" by apparently in the 2000s that wasn't even a big song, which I find crazy.
really? What?
Yeah, that was
That's
like an obscure pick from Right, and now it's like one of the most popular songs ever. It's weird.
that is weird. Yeah, the final showdown in the pub is really good. He loves a pub, Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
but I think they mix the horror. He perfectly mixes the horror with the zombies. He makes them a threat
Yeah.
constantly, but the first zombie they encounter in the garden, they're like just throwing stuff out the shed at it, and then they
The
realize it's an
records.
actual
Yeah.
yeah, they realize it's an actual threat, and then um, it's similar to Dawn of the Dead again. Like individually in that Romero film, like, they just walk past them, they just run past them, but
Hmm.
as a collective, like it's similar to when they're in that shop and they're all pressing on the glass, like in the pub, they're just completely surrounded. And then when something horrible happens, there's no like jokes. They just play it straight, and everyone's really concerned for each other's safety. So that's why it works so well as a standalone zombie film. It knows when to play it light and when to be serious. It's probably the best comedy horror, other than Gremlins, because I love the Gremlins. But it's probably
Yeah.
that tier. It goes as
Yeah,
dark
those
as
two are
Gremlins does because they both know when to go really dark and when to be really stupid.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. Um, yeah, I think just slow zombies work the best in my opinion because I mean, there's moments in this when like Nick Frost gets bit, and it's like I remember in Walking Dead, like when the slow zombies like stopped being a threat, like it was always like the most stupid moments when people would actually like screw up and get bit. But in this, like it feels like the kills aren't like it does feel like they're actually like overcrowded with zombies. And like there's not much they could have done. And like the actual deaths in this movie, apart from his mum, who is like really stupid, which is like again
It makes
it's
sense though
aged
for a
quite
child.
well. No, it's aged quite well because of the way people react to a pandemic, and then they
True.
like hide the fact that they've been bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're
yeah.
very stupid about it. Um, but yeah, the kills were really good in this. Yeah, there's a lot of emotion to it. It may be my favorite zombie movie. It's really up there. It's one of the best comedies, I think, just
It's
out there
it's
in general.
it's like top three comedy horror and top three zombie films probably, which is just
Yeah.
insane for someone who was basically starting out. Yeah, I don't think I guess Zombieland's pretty good. Um,
Yeah,
I
I really
like
like Zombieland.
but yeah, there's not many other films trying to tackle. But Zombieland sort of feels like a Shaun of the Dead
Well,
homage a
it's like the
little bit.
American
Yeah, that
Shaun of
doesn't
the
feel like
Dead.
it's a homage to Romero. That feels like a homage to Shaun of the Dead. So like Shaun of
Yeah.
the Dead really established itself as the top like zombie homage film. It's not what I don't feel like people ever really mix comedy with zombies though. It's probably
I feel like it is more done now. The
uh,
zombie genre is kind of slowed down.
yeah, zombies in
There's not a
general.
lot
Like
of great.
we've got, I don't even know if you count 28 years because that's an established franchise. You don't really get. I feel like a trend that's sort of died a little bit since Walking Dead's lost popularity or finished.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not easy to make a good zombie film. You've got to be like
No.
everyone's done it so much. You've got to be innovative about it. But yeah, like I was saying, it's one of. It's actually shocking. It's not either our favorite films, to be honest. I thought this was your favorite, but the
Yeah, no,
next
it's
film,
up there. It was my favorite at one point, but yeah,
the next
what's the
film,
best?
I think is unbelievable. Scott Pilgrim versus the World, obviously. This, I watched that. I'm gonna look. I think I watched this year. I remember rewatching it recently. I've seen it like 4 times. Um, and I've also seen the animated series, which is very good because it doesn't
Mm.
just do the film. Um, this is the best comic adaptation ever, I think. And it's not even like a superhero film. Every character, well, a lot of the characters are completely insufferable, but he writes it in a way as to where you're always rooting for them. This is the most loving like adaptation I think I've ever seen of any source material. The way like every no other film looks like Scott Pilgrim, and it should be really
Yeah.
annoying and over the top with the humor and like the visual effects, but
I feel like it does have the reputation of that, but like
it
it's
does.
not.
But like, I know people who don't like it because they just find it really like cringy and annoying. But I think if
I
this
think it's because the
resonates with you,
characters,
well, yeah,
like Mary Elizabeth Winstead's like the manic pixie dream girl, and then he's like he's a very flawed character where he's dating like a 17-year-old, so it's easy to like really
But
pull it apart.
the film just constantly like says how pathetic Michael Cera is in this. Like
Yeah.
he is pathetic. They're constantly saying he's dating like an underage kid, and how he like just doesn't care about her at all. Kieran Culkin's character is really good in this. I mean, this cast is just stacked, and everyone's like brings their A game.
It's ridiculous.
Even Chris Evans is like really good in his like movie star role. And yeah, it's his best looking film, I think. But again, there's nothing you compare it to in his filmography or anyone else's. It's just I watched this June of this year. Yeah, I think it's his magnum opus. I think it's everything that he like it for like. I suppose it's not a very serious film. It's probably his purest comedy, and it's also
I think
not.
it's his funniest.
I think it is. It's a different
I
kind of
think,
humor. 'Cause obviously, it's not British humor.
yeah,
It's like adapted American humor.
it
But
almost shouldn't work because it is like it's his first Hollywood movie outside of like the British movies, but like it is still so funny, and I think it's the physical comedy that like overtakes it for me because it's almost like a Buster Keaton movie at times, or when he's like jumping through the window like behind
yeah, yeah.
Kieran Culkin, or so much like physical comedy that kind of lifts it above his other movies for me.
Or like someone swears and they put the actual like filter over them with like
Yeah.
the noise. Yeah, it's it's him just bringing his A game. I said in my review, I in my review I said I'd pick Yee to like show like a film that could like summarize the human race. I'd pick Yee, but if I just want to like show aliens like what a film is, I'd show them this because
Mm.
it just feels like it is one of the most purely entertaining films ever made. It it's paced ridiculously. The like structure with the evil X's, there's not like a single weak antagonist or performance. The music is
Mhm.
insanely good again. Like that Black
I still
Sheep.
listen to the music.
I
Yeah,
love
that
that
Black
Black
Sheep.
Sheep
I
song.
have that on loop.
Yeah, Brie Larson's version is amazing, and so is the original version. This is again him just showing how incredible of a musical director he is, and it
Yeah, I
obviously
think
opens
it's
with that song as well. Yeah, it's just amazing.
I think it's the best balance, definitely so far, between like the American movies and the comedy and like his style. Because, like you said, like Baby Driver, it kind of has like some of his style like stripped away to kind of be like a more commercialized like heist movie. But I think this brings like all the like Edgar Wright energy and stuff that he brought from the Cornetto trilogy because it's got like the whip pans, the crash sims, the split screens. There's so many like fun transitions that keep this flowing completely like a comic book movie or like a comic book. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
it, I think the best compliment you can give it is that there's not really a fall off between like the animated version and this in terms of like how it looks and how like
No,
almost animated it is. Like it is just as good and alive, even though it's in a live action version.
yeah. This is obviously 2010, and but it still looks like incredible because obviously it's going for like the video game sort of riff, like the pixelated graphics and stuff. But it leans so heavily into that style constantly that it just does sort of feel like watching an animated film.
Mhm.
Have you seen you've seen the series?
Yes, I have. It's very good. So
It's very good. I like in the series how they're following the film and then it completely diverts because it sort of elevates this film
mhm.
more because it like fleshes out every evil X. I've never read the books. I don't know how faithful this is. I think
I
in
think I
the
played the video
books,
game that was, but I think that was an adaptation of the movie rather than
yeah, I think that was
something that came before the movie.
I think in the books, Scott Pilgrim is like a bigger arsehole from what I've heard. But I've never read them. But you can tell Edgar Wright just completely fell in love with the source material, and it's like I said, I think it's I can't say it's the most faithful because I've not read it, but it feels like the most
I've heard
um,
it is.
Really, it feels like the most loving
Yeah,
adaptation I've ever seen.
yeah.
If we count it as a comic book film, it's by far my favorite comic book film. Um, if I could, if I could go beyond the 5 star, I probably would. That's how much I like it. It's really good.
Yeah, it's got so many like incredible actors from the 2000s. Like Michael Cera, like in his prime, is one of my favorite comedic actors. Mary Elizabeth Winstead was in like so many of my favorite movies growing up as well. And then like pretty much everybody else in this that isn't like those two are like the biggest stars in this, and then everybody else pretty much became like an A-list star like between 2010 and now.
Yeah,
Like Kieran Culkin's an Oscar winner. Um, Chris Evans has become one of the biggest stars ever. Aubrey Plaza's one of the biggest comedic stars. Like the cast is insane. Anna Kendrick, for a point in the 2010s, was one of the biggest stars. It's crazy that they managed to get that many people before they kind of fully blown up.
yeah, and obviously Brie Larson as well, who I didn't know had
Yeah,
that voice on her, but I think she does sing. Oh, she was a singer. Um, Chris Evans sort of plays himself, which is funny, but like not himself in
he plays
2010.
himself
He
now.
plays himself like
Yeah,
now. Yeah, that's that's how like
it's
clever
actually
that casting
it's
was.
less shameless the movies he's pretending to do in this movie.
I love that he has to fight with stunt doubles as well because he don't want to like get hit. It's really good. Yeah, and even like the smaller actors that aren't like household names, like some of the evil exes are really good as well. I think Kieran Culkin is my favorite like non-lead performance in this.
Mhm.
But yeah, Michael Cera is such an amazing actor, especially back then. That is such good casting because he's pathetic, but he's also like really good at playing like a dick as well.
Yeah,
Like, imagine if they had someone like Jesse Eisenberg in that role. I know it's like generic to compare him to Jesse Eisenberg. But if he was Scott Pilgrim, it'd be insufferable. Um, so yeah, I think the only reason this isn't the I don't think it's the consensus favorite, even though it's got a really high average on Letterboxd. I think casual audiences it can be too much for. Um, I mean, I can see someone that we know, Remy. He has it at 2, so I think
well,
definitely within crowds, it's just too much, too annoying.
yeah. I think it's a bit polarizing, but it's maybe in terms of like worldwide, it's probably his most popular movie. Like in terms of who's
I
seen
think
it.
popularity wise, it's probably the most seen, but
Yeah,
I think critically, you've got to think about it from the most casual because Letterbox isn't a casual
yeah,
audience. It's probably Baby Driver, but Baby Driver is his most conventional film, like by a mile.
yeah.
Which is why
Um,
I'm a little bit worried about Running Man because it's giving me the same. I don't know if his approach to do Running Man. I think he was rather than because it's an
I'm not
adaptation,
sure
isn't it?
actually.
Of is it Stephen King?
It's an adaptation and the remake, technically.
Oh yeah, because there's an Arnie film, isn't there? So it's not like
Yeah,
it's not his original script. He will obviously, I'm assuming he's going to write it. Or I hope he is. Oh, he is.
let me check.
Yeah,
He
he's
has wrote
writing it.
all of his movies.
No, he is
Has
writing
he?
it. Yeah, with
Good.
someone who did. Oh, to be fair, the other writer did 21 Jump Street and Project X, so that's pretty good for like comedic writing. I really like those films, so it might be
Yeah,
all right. I don't know how comedy heavy Running Man's going to be. That's not the impression I get from the
it
trailer.
does look very comedic. There's a new trailer that I haven't
All
watched,
right.
but I've seen some tweets about it being having a very comedic tone. I've seen people compare it to the Fall Guy, the Ryan
Oh
Gosling
God.
movie, which isn't which is derogatory, but yeah.
It's another like
Hopefully it's not like
working.
that.
We're loving working class like class structure criticism films this year. But the running from assassins reminds me of the X's in Scott Pilgrim. The visual style. I've only seen one
Yeah.
trailer. I don't know what trailer I've seen. It's just whenever it's on at cinema. Um, it doesn't look like his best visual work. Um,
Hmm.
but it's too hard to judge right now. I'm excited for it 'cause it's Edgar Wright, and I do like that. There's quite a clear 4 or 5 year gap between each film he does. Because he's never made a bad film, so hopefully.
Um, Yeah, it's Park Chan Wook's DP that he worked on with Last Night in Soho is
Oh, okay.
working on it. So
Well,
hopefully
Last Night in
there's stuff.
Soho's not my favorite, but it's one of his best looking ones. So
Yeah, hopefully there's a lot of good technical stuff that isn't shown in the trailer. It's also one of those movies that are like from the 80s and 90s where like this like could be remade. Like it's not the best
yeah,
possible
it
version
needs
that they could have
polishing.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I suppose it's similar to Dread when that got remade. A lot of
yeah,
like Arnie and that kind of like goofy action film can be modernized very well. So yeah, it doesn't feel like it helps. Oh my god, I didn't know William H Macy was in this. I've not
Nico
seen
Serra's in it.
what was he even in last? Michael Cera's in it. Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Common Domingo. Yeah, the cast is very good. Again, it's like another Oracle cast. I'm excited. I'm getting more excited now seeing who's involved because like that's a very competent writer he's writing it with, and that's a very good cinematographer. Um, and the composer did Last Night in Soho as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
he's not disappointed yet. Um,
no, I don't think. Looking at the trailers, I don't think it's going to be a bad film at all. Um,
no. It's also interesting that it's like right in the middle of well, award season is starting soon, but it's not really
yeah,
like the. It's an interesting time to release a kind of like action science fiction movie.
I don't think it'll be talked about much. Obviously, it's hard to say about seeing it, but just from general
Yeah,
impression, um, I think a lot of this is also Glenn Powell just trying to establish himself as the next film star. I think um, he's on the right track, definitely. If you're leading in a Top Gun film, or well, not leading, but if you're in a Top Gun film, you're leading in a Twisted remake, and you're in an Edgar Wright film, you're um, you're on the right trajectory. Um,
yeah, yeah. People might write this off as like a because it does just kind of look like from the trailer like the kind of horror or not horror like action comedies that like come out in like January. But you're working with Edgar Wright. I'm sure this is going to be a lot technically better and just a really good movie. Knowing him,
yeah, I'm excited, very excited. We've had a very good year for like just names of like directors. It's been an insane year
yeah,
of people like coming out of not retirement but coming out of big breaks. Um, not all of them have landed. For like people like Bong, for me, did not land Mickey 17, but um, I think this will land. Even if this is his worst, it's still probably gonna be a good film because his worst film is really good.
yeah. Even if it's his worst, it could be one of my favorites of the year because it's getting better. But I still don't have a lot of like great movies this year.
I've still not got a five. I'm waiting for someone to claim the five spot.
Yeah,
So yeah, I've still got Final Destination like holding on into my top 10. So it's not going to be
the
impossible to get my top 10.
yeah. I'm waiting on Big Jim Cameron to deliver the five.
Oh yeah, of course, the most
Oh.
obvious one of the year.
But yeah, we'll end it on that note. We're looking forward to The Running Man, and that is our ranking of Edgar Wright's movies right now. I don't, yeah, we definitely don't see like the top kind of tier of him changing from Running Man, but
No,
maybe the bottom could shift a bit. But hopefully, hopefully it's
hopefully.
not just placed at bottom.
I'm hoping it's better than last night in Soho. That's kind of where I want it to be, like in the middle.
Uh, yeah, but yeah, that's our ranking. Let us know what your favorite Edgar Wright movie is, and we'll be back next week. See ya.